Today's story is one that we stumbled upon while watching a documentary. We couldn't find any record of this woman in the pages of history anywhere. All we found was the briefest mention of her on Wikipedia. Today, we're going to talk about the Homestead widow who fought back with nothing but grit. Let's get into it. Martha Jane Canary was born in Missouri in 1830. She grew up on a farm. Her father was an ordained minister. Martha Jane loved riding horses and shooting rifles with her brother, and she became pretty good at it too. When Martha Jane was 14 years old, she married a man named John Canary. The couple had 5 children together. They lived in the small town of Lamar, Missouri. John worked as a storekeeper and farmer. In 1866, John was murdered during a robbery. We don't know who killed him, only that he was shot in the back while trying to protect his wife and daughter from the robber. John was killed and the robber took $250 and some merchandise from the store. The police never caught the man who killed John, and as you can imagine, Martha Jane was beside herself. Not only did she lose her husband, but now she had 5 children to take care of and no one to help her. She was desperate. Martha Jane went to the local sheriff and pleaded with him to find her husband's killer. But as the weeks turned into months and then a year, she saw that the police were not making much progress in their investigation. No one seemed to care about her husband's death, so she decided to take matters into her own hands. She spent a great deal of time honing her already exceptional marksmanship skills and trained herself to shoot accurately from horseback. It seems she was practicing for something. A few years passed, and rumors started spreading across the western territories of a legendary female gunslinger who went by the name Calamity Jane. It was said that she was a force to be reckoned with and that she could outshoot any man. While there are many who claim to have met Calamity Jane, no one ever got a good look at her face because she always wore a black veil over it. No one knew who she was. Then one day, a traveling salesman came through Lamar, Missouri. He had seen Calamity Jane before. He knew who she was, and he recognized Martha Jane Canary immediately. The salesman told Martha Jane that she reminded him of Calamity Jane and asked her if she knew who that was. Martha Jane replied, "Why, that's me." The salesman was shocked. He told her that he'd heard she was wanted for murder. Apparently, the authorities suspected that Martha Jane had killed the man who'd robbed her husband's store, and they had been searching for her for quite some time. But because no one could prove it was her, she managed to elude them. Martha Jane admitted that she had killed 3 men since her husband's murder. She said she wasn't proud of what she'd done, but she had no other choice. She had young children to feed, and she could unlet those responsible for her husband's death go unpunished. The salesman tried to convince her to turn herself in, but she refused. She was innocent in the eyes of the law, and so she would not surrender. Over the next 2 decades, Martha Jane traveled all over the American West. She hunted outlaws and brought them to justice. She was known as the fastest gun in the West. Some historians believe that she may have actually been faster than the famous Wild Bill Hickok, but we'll never know for sure. What we do know is that she lived a long life. She died in 1903 from complications related to tuberculosis. She was 73 years old. When she was found, Martha Jane was living in a small shack near Deadwood, South Dakota. She had spent her last days alone, destitute and sick. When the news of her passing reached the nearby town, people came from miles around to pay their respects to the legendary Calamity Jane. Martha Jane is buried in a cemetery in Deadwood. Her grave is marked with a simple headstone that reads, "Here lies Calamity Jane." There is also a plaque that has been placed beside her grave. It reads, "They say that God created man in his own image. But when he made Calamity Jane, he forgot to put the rib back in." Over the years, several movies have been made about her life. One of the most popular versions of her story was released in 1953. It was called The Legend of Calamity Jane, and it starred Doris Day as Martha Jane. We've spoken a lot about famous female assassins on this channel, but this particular case is different. Martha Jane didn't kill for profit or even political reasons. She killed out of grief. She needed to feed her family, and she was seeking revenge. Because of that, there are a few things we should discuss. First off, losing a loved one is incredibly painful. We all grieve differently. Some people cry, others become angry. Some people become obsessed with solving the crime. Grief is complicated, and Martha Jane's actions should be viewed within that context. She wasn't a stone-cold killer. She was a mother and a wife who had lost her partner and the father of her children. She loved this man, and she wanted justice for him. Now, of course, that doesn't excuse her behavior. She did break the law and end innocent lives, but it does help us understand why she acted the way she did. In addition to that, it helps us understand why so many people admired her. She wasn't just a ruthless killer. She was a woman scorned, who was fighting for her family, and that inspired people. Especially true in the Old West, where people were judged solely based on their gender roles. Martha Jane defied those gender roles and lived a life that many men could only dream of. She rode horses, shot guns, hunted, and fought. She was also beautiful, and she used that beauty to her advantage. While it's important to remember that Martha Jane was a cold-blooded killer, it's also important to remember that she was a product of her environment. She lived in a time when women were expected to be subservient to men. She lived in a time when the only way a woman could make a name for herself was by being someone's wife or daughter. She lived in a time when a woman's value was determined by her virginity. Martha Jane rejected all of that, and she carved out her own place in history. She is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, even when all hope seems to be lost, one can still find a way to fight back. Martha Jane lived a long life. She saw more than her fair share of tragedy, but she never gave up. She never let the world break her. She is an inspiration to us all. Whether you knew her or not, whether you lived in her time or ours, Martha Jane's story is one that will live on forever. She was a force to be reckoned with. She was a legend. She was Calamity Jane. What do you think? Is Martha Jane a hero or a villain? Do you admire her courage, or do you condemn her actions? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. We'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe so you can stay updated on our latest videos. We've got lots more fascinating stories coming up.